Okay, I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Lunch and Learn with Linda, the Job Seeker Support Group. We're here to provide you with advice, with assistance, with support for whatever it is you need in your job search. We do this as kind of a way of giving back. It's my way of giving to you the kinds of support that I've been given from other people in the past. Okay. Trying to figure out how to mute this. There we go. All right. I didn't want to have the echo from the live. My first time going live. We'll see how that works. And it looks like I stopped it. We'll figure it out. Anyway, but this is your Job Seeker Support Group. We're here to give you advice, support, and assistance. Also doing networking. We're a giving group, so when you've got your questions, make sure that you ask them as we move forward. That said, we're going to do a very short, okay, because we have a great guest speaker today, and I want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered today. So a very short, quick wins. We're only going to do about 5 or 10 minutes. Anybody have a quick win they want to share?
I'll go.
Who's that?
With Tony Smith. Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Last week I mentioned I had a consulting opportunity. I'm working on that. This morning I spoke with someone who is looking for a fractional CTO to kind of do lead-ins to consulting, and it sounds right up my alley and very interesting. So having another call this afternoon, so that's very exciting for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a quick win? Remember, use your digital hand so that we can find you. Pat.
No, sorry, I was cheering on for Tony's.
Right? Not a problem. Okay. Deb.
I actually have a conversation with an agency today. So I'm hopeful. My background is that I am talent acquisition and recruiter and HR adjacent. So I'm not HR enough for many positions. So I'm overqualified and underqualified at the same time. So I'm hoping this conversation with the agency this afternoon will help them explain me better to their client companies. So fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Good luck. Anybody else have a quick win they'd like to share? Chad.
So like Deb, I have a conversation today with an agency to work as a consultant. Something it would be only part-time to start, but it would be something it would get me back working, getting to do some practice. So we'll see how it goes.
Part-time contract work, all great stuff. Volunteer work, all great stuff. Any other hands? Are there any other hands up that I can see? I'm sorry, please mute yourself if you are not talking, just because otherwise we get the echo. Thank you all. Anyone else?
Hey, this is Puneet Bhatt. I hope you can hear me clear.
Yes, is your camera on?
Yes, this is Puneet
Okay,
Bhatt. Hey, so I have been looking for the job, like it's been 2 weeks for me now. So I'm still in process of sending out my resume, doing the networking with my contacts and a couple of recruitment agencies. So I'm still in process of getting some calls, but so far nothing has been worked out. So I'm just staying positive and looking into it.
That's all we can do. And that's a good, that's even a quick win. The idea of, okay, staying positive, continuing to look, that's a great thing. Anyone else? All right. So last reminder, remember to put your information in the chat so that we can connect with you. We're going to try and monitor your questions in the chat. May not always, so make sure you get your digital hand raised if you have questions, and we'll try and find you as often as we can. That said, I realized that I'd actually forgotten to introduce myself before I introduce our guest. So I'm Linda Brubaker. I'm a career coach, and I come to this with over 20 years of experience in HR, recruiting from all sides of the desk. So I've been a recruiter, I've been a talent acquisition manager, an HR business partner, a headhunter, executive search consultant, a hiring manager, and I've been a dedicated job search coach now for the last 7 years. Really excited that so far, 274 of the people that I've worked with over those 7 years have gotten offers. So I can tell you that because while the job market may look a little strange, people are starting to get offers again, although we are also seeing more layoffs as well. So it's that mixed bag, okay? It will happen for you. We just never know when. But you just have to keep hanging in there and let us support you. This job search group really does help to support one another. So that's me. Okay, Sue, would you like to introduce yourself?
Briefly today, Sue mentors in the global world. I have a mentoring practice all over the world. I mentor people in transition at all levels. And I'm also the mentor with pom-poms. You'll see them if you haven't noticed them already today. I celebrate everything. And I will be active in the chat trying to reflect questions and reflections. One way for you to be visible too. I'm excited about our guest speaker, Linda.
Thank you. And so if you see something in the chat that we don't see that we need to bring up, would you please bring it up for us? Perfect. Okay, so I put the information in the chat in terms of how you can connect with me, what I do. Okay, the work that I do coaching is what supports programs like this. But also the information about how you can connect and how you can join our private group. I'm now going to turn it over, and I wanted to introduce hello there. Introduce Elizabeth Gish. Elizabeth is, I'm going to actually let you introduce yourself to this whole program. I'm really excited that Elizabeth is here. She's got such great information and has been working with people who are trying to get back to work in a variety of different ways for a number of years, extremely successfully. So Elizabeth, take it away.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you, everybody, for having me come and speak with you. I've been really looking forward to this opportunity. My name is Elizabeth Gish, and I am a managing director at iRelaunch. What we do is our mission is essentially to normalize career breaks. So, trying to put those people with a career break on their resume in the yes pile rather than the no pile. And so we are trying to sort of eliminate that bias against people who want to relaunch their careers after taking an extended leave from work. And so, we recognize this untapped talent pool for what it is. We're all highly educated, and I'm going to put myself into your pool. I'll tell you a little bit about my background in a minute. We're all highly educated. We're all experienced and motivated. And we consider ourselves sort of the pioneering company around relaunching. And so we have a pretty big influence on the conversation that happens with employers, because we work with employers in setting up career reentry programs. And we're sort of that bridge between employers and relaunchers. And so a little bit about me. I started my career working on Wall Street many, many years ago. And I realized after doing that for some time that I was helping others make money, and I wasn't really fulfilling what I was passionate about. So around that same time, I was starting a family and was fortunate enough to be able to take a break from the workforce and raise my 2 boys. While I was doing that, I was volunteering a lot. And I found myself being drawn to a local nonprofit that supported under-resourced students, elementary school students that needed help with their literacy skills. And so I joined their leadership team in recruiting and training and managing these volunteers that came in to help these students. I didn't know it at the time, but that was strategic volunteering. And it informed my relaunch. So my break was 15 years. I took 7 of those years and did all this volunteering. When I was ready to go back, I put on my resume all that volunteering. Didn't matter that it wasn't paid. And those skills that I developed during my volunteering fit very well for what they were looking for at Oracle. And I ended up applying for a role to lead a global corporate social responsibility program. What was interesting is I didn't even know what corporate social responsibility was. But when I was doing my research, I just put into Google volunteering and corporations, and it popped up. So I was informing myself about a whole new industry that I wasn't aware of, but I knew I was going to do pretty well because I was so passionate about it. And so that's basically what helped me get into Oracle. And while I was there, they didn't have a career reentry program. So I'm going to tell you, my relaunch was really, really difficult. Nobody knew what a relauncher was. They just treated me as though I never had a career break. And so I decided I didn't want anybody else to kind of go through the struggles that I did. And so I was fortunate to do some networking there with talent acquisition, diversity, equity, inclusion, and HR, and designed and created Oracle Career Relaunch. So I was really excited about that. And I brought in iRelaunch to do the consulting. So I did that for some time and decided, you know what? I really want to do consulting with other employers and setting up these programs because it's so impactful for those relaunchers. So now I get to do my dream job where I am wearing two hats, where I get to work with relaunchers like everybody here in the audience, as well as employers. So having experienced both, I feel like I'm pretty much, of value to both sides and bringing them together. And so that's a little bit about my story. So now I advise these companies on how to create these programs.
And I will tell you that in the last 2 years, 3 of the people that I've worked with have taken these kinds of relaunching opportunities. One as actually making it a career change, okay, doing a bit of a pivot. The other 2 trying to get back into things that they had done before an extended absence. Okay, in one case, that absence was over 20 years.
Yeah.
So those programs are fantastic. And Elizabeth has lots of great opportunities to share. So start getting those questions ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about what practices during a career break are the most useful, you think, in helping people prepare for that kind of a relaunch?
Yeah, excellent. So first and most importantly, figuring out what you want to do is it drives everything else. And so getting really, really specific about this. And going back to the point you just made, Linda, having worked with, hundreds of relaunchers, we find that there are 3 different career paths. So you're on the right path before you break and you choose to go back to that same career, or you're not on the right path, but you choose to go back to something that's similar. And the third one is you're definitely not on the right path, and you recognize during your break that you've been handed this gift. I like to call it a gift. I know many of you may not feel like that right now, but I encourage you to think about this a little differently, because you have the opportunity to reimagine and reevaluate what you did before. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And going through that exercise can help you formulate and get clarity around what you want to do next. And so I don't know if we can I'd just be curious to know with our audience here, like how many of you are thinking, yep, I'm going to go back to the same career, or no, I want to do a complete pivot. So I don't know if we can do a raise of hands. I think that might be of interest.
So you all know where the reactions are. If you decided that you want to go back to the same career that you were in, raise your hands now. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hands.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you decided that you're going to use this opportunity, because there were 9 people who said that. If you decided that you'd like to use this opportunity as a way of trying to do something different, whether it's a slight difference or a career pivot or move to a different area, okay, of the same job, or in something entirely different, what kind of are you thinking about making that kind of a pivot? How many raise your hands now? So far I'm seeing 5, 8, okay.
Okay.
Looks like it's fairly split.
Yeah. Okay. What we're going to talk about, it will apply to both camps. Because as you contemplate your relaunch, these practices will encourage you to sort of engage more in an industry, because even if you're returning to the same career, things have changed, right? And so you'll want to become a subject matter expert all over again. And that is so critical to your relaunch, because as you work through these strategies and become a subject matter expert, it's going to give you more confidence. And I know from experience, when we're on break, we think to ourselves, there's no way I can go and sit in an interview. I've been out for 7 years. I don't know how I could go and do that. But what we're going to work through today is strategies on how to get that confidence, how to become someone that can talk with confidence about, the new things that are happening with that industry. So I want to encourage you to enjoy this sort of learning that you'll be going through. Embrace curiosity. And remember, it takes time and patience, and to be really patient and to be kind to yourself. So first and foremost, connecting on LinkedIn with people that you've worked with before. Remember that they will remember you as how you were 7 years ago, not how you are today, because you haven't been engaging with them. So I know sometimes that can be a challenge. But they may remember you as the financial analyst that you were 7 years ago, or the HR executive you were. Talking to friends and family is a great way to start processing, finding people to talk to in your industry. A simple question, say you want to pivot perhaps into like UX design or HR, hey, do you know anyone who works in UX design? And as soon as you start asking those questions and people know that you're starting to open up and explore other opportunities, they'll start thinking that way and hopefully staying in touch. And so one of to sort of cement that is sort of these informational interviews, which I'm sure many of you have already heard about, and they're super valuable with getting insights into sort of the reality of an industry, and they'll connect you with people of influence, right? And remember that when you're having these informational interviews, you're not asking them for a job, right? So that will put them at ease. Many times people are so willing to help as long as they don't feel like there's an ask. And we all know people like to talk about themselves, because you really want to know about them. What has their journey been like? What sort of credentials did they need? What have been their stepping stones? You can even ask them, who are the people of influence that they follow? You want to start to keep up with sort of the current thinking in the field, and walking through some of the decisions that they made along their career journey. And also ask them if there's anybody else within their network that they feel would be comfortable talking to you. And you're not asking for, an hour meeting with them. You're on LinkedIn, you're saying, hey, do you have 15 minutes to chat? Or, even better, if you know them a little better, hey, do you want to, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Right? I'm not asking you for a job, but this is what I'm doing. And so, as I said, you'll be very pleasantly surprised, I think, that people are always willing to help. So this process is about becoming a subject matter expert. You want to think about, following others of influence on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or any other social media outlet. Join a community. So you all have done that. You're here today, which I applaud you for. There are other Facebook and LinkedIn groups in the field of choice, right, that you decide that you want to go into. So you can kind of join some of their communities. Along the lines of getting support as a relauncher, iRelaunch, we have a host of resources on our website, which Mari is going to start putting into the chat. And I encourage you to take a look at. And the one that I wanted to highlight right now is our Facebook Return to Work Forum. We have over 13,000 members. It's a closed community, only of relaunchers. And we have people who are on our team who contribute. And you'll find that there are relaunchers that are at various stages of their relaunch. But if they've already relaunched, they're very excited to be able to give back and to help and asking any questions. It's just a wonderful place, just like you are here today, to be able to get that support. Some other iRelaunch resources, we have a roadmap, which is an e-learning with 5 stages to returning to work. We have our Return to Work conference, which Mari's going to highlight here. We host 2 of these a year in May and October, and we have our May one, our October one coming up the 8th through the 10th. It's 3 days. 2 of the days are very content driven, where our sponsors will have panels. We have coaches that will lead a panel. And that 3rd day is a recruiting booth for our sponsors. And so we typically have, over 1,000 relaunchers that join these conferences. And the conference link, you'll find an interest form on there, and that will provide you an opportunity to get an early bird discount to be able to join our conference. So you'll be able to see that. We also host dedicated information sessions, which are free, and those are facilitated through our clients. We've worked with over 250 employers, and so they come back to us if they are, looking for some more help with recruiting, and so we will facilitate sort of these dedicated information sessions for them. We have links for career coaches, and we have over 250 podcasts, which you'll be able to listen to their success stories, their stories about career transition. There's also, I like to highlight, there's a mini series that talks about the prolonged job search and how it impacts you and how you can sort of encourages you to stay positive, because we know it can get really frustrating when you've applied to numerous jobs and you keep getting no. And so the link is going to be in the chat there. Another thing is to join Toastmasters. Most of the people there are working. However, if you join Toastmasters, you're getting 2 wins out of that. One, you are practicing your public speaking, because when you do start working, you might have opportunities to do presentations. There also the opportunity to network for those people that are in Toastmasters, and to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and just to start those sort of conversations and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. So many great resources out there, guys. You need to take advantage of as many of them as you can. Lots of different things going on. So when you've talked a little bit about ways to upskill, can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, I can. I'm very embarrassed. I have to go grab my charger because my computer's about to die. I'm going to go do that and be back in 1 minute.
It's not a problem. We'll keep talking without you. So we all remember, I started this by talking about the fact that we do have those technological issues. The issue is always making sure that you've got your backup and your charging cord or your recorder someplace in the area. David, you've got a quick hand up. Yes.
Yeah, I followed the link of the relaunch on Facebook group, and I signed up. It said there's a newsletter to belong to, which I'm not familiar with, the newsletter.
Yes. We have a newsletter. So once you sign up, I'm sorry, who is this that's speaking? Is this
It's David Mills.
Oh, hi. Great question. Right. I'm glad you asked it. Yes, we have a newsletter that goes out and will highlight roles that are being offered. And so once you register, you'll be on our, you'll be joining our community over 100 and I think it's over 125,000 community members now. And so you'll find those in your inboxes, and you'll also be able to receive, promotional things that go out about some of our clients that are kicking off their program. So it is.
So I clicked request to join. Now it's pending. Does that mean I'm registered? Is that another step?
You'll hear back momentarily about.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay, I'm back and getting charged.
good. And we're all charged up, so.
Okay, yeah.
So you were starting to talk a little bit about ways to upskill.
Sure, sure. So that is a very important process, and I'm going to call it upskilling or reskilling, right? I had touched on that strategic volunteering. And once you go through the process of getting really specific about what you want to do next, check out different volunteering opportunities within your community that will align and help build some of the skills that you can hone in on and put on your LinkedIn profile and put on your resume. Okay. And so, the opportunities are looking, I think there's volunteermatch.com. There's a host of opportunities for you to think about. And again, you can think about if you wanted to get into HR, and it can be, you know, or writing it. Say you want to get into marketing and you want to do some skills around that. Volunteering your time without pay is something that I know a lot of opportunities will say, yes, please come. We can't pay you, but please come and learn and help us, right? And again, it'll also give you an opportunity that, is this something I really want to do, or did I just think I wanted to do this? So another thing is to pursue coursework, right? To be a viable candidate, and you'll be able to speak about this when you go for your interview. So I'm talking about, you know, the coursework at perhaps your community college, also certification or credentials. Again, you know, thinking about community colleges or any local universities. See if get on their mailing list, and if there are any speakers that are coming to share whatever's going on in that industry, go and listen to it, but get there early so that you can have an opportunity to talk to the speaker and introduce yourself and maybe connect with them on LinkedIn. And if you get there early, you'll also be able to meet other people that are in that industry. So just another way to think creatively. And that's what I encourage you to do, is be creative about your networking opportunities. Look on LinkedIn for someone who has that dream job. I remember doing that for corporate social responsibility. And there's this woman that I follow here. I'm in California, in the Bay Area. And I studied her LinkedIn profile for a while. I looked at how she got to where she is. I followed her about her speaking events, and she really helped, you know, inform what I wanted to do. It wasn't as though I copied everything, but I took what made sense for me and I kind of left the rest. And so I encourage you to do something similar to that. And again, just kind of emphasizing, the more you do this, the more confident you're going to start to feel.
And that's great. And there are lots of training resources out there. The idea of trying to see how other people got to where you want to be, what paths they followed, that's a great kind of a question to ask in an informational interview. It's a great way of looking at their profiles just to get you some of those ideas as well. And the training, the upskilling, the reskilling resources are available. And if you want some additional ideas, I just added one into the chat. We can add some more, but you can always reach out and ask me, and we can get some additional ideas for you. One of the big questions that people have, Elizabeth, is, okay, I've got this gap, I'm doing all the right things, but employers, what do they think about all of this? And how do I talk about this, especially if I'm making a pivot or I haven't been working recently and they're looking for that unicorn? What do I say?
Yeah. So, all right, you've decided, which is, I want to applaud everybody, you're going to relaunch, because it takes a lot of courage. And I know that, and it's scary, right? Because you've got, you know, your self-confidence is down a little bit. You're concerned about imposter syndrome. However, for everything we already talked about, you're starting to get more confident, right? You're getting the network. You're hearing from your friends, oh my gosh, you're going to be great at that, right? You've got allies, you've got a community like you have right here. And so now you're going to really start talking about it, because you've done all this research. So before I get into answering, what does an employer look like? I want to step back a little bit and talk about your skill set and how you're going to put that on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Okay. So you need to get really specific about this skill set. You're going to want to focus on your new ones that you've gotten through perhaps some strategic volunteering or any of your courses. And then those from your previous work, right? That are relevant to the role that you're applying to. And so this whole exercise is going to help you with that resume creation and the LinkedIn creation. Mari, maybe we can drop in to the chat now, because we've got a host of podcasts and resources around resume creation. So for relaunchers. So I'm just going to give you an example. Okay, so I've been on career break and I have negotiated a home loan as a buyer, right? And I did a lot of comparison about shopping for the various options of the different banks. And I actually even did a credit analysis of my own, our family's financial situation to really understand how I'd be presented as a credit risk. So that would be relevant experience for applying for a credit analyst role, right? So you can talk about how being on the customer side informed your approach when working on the banking side. So when combining the experience of your pre-career break and your career break experience, you're demonstrating precision, attention to detail, aptitude with financial calculations, and your ability to get into the details of complex language. So not only does that appear on your resume, but it also, you weave that into your conversation when you're in your interview. So the experience section of your resume or your LinkedIn profile, I encourage you to put that career break on. And the reason I'm encouraging you to do that is because LinkedIn, first off, LinkedIn has a drop-down feature on the profile page, and you can put career break. And it's for recruiters and employers to be able to see that, yes, you are eligible for their programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about the eligibility requirements in a second. But you'll put in that career break your bullet points, like I've done some consulting, I've done some teaching, and you will, again, call out the career break there. And remember, in order to apply to these programs, you have to have had a career break. So relaunch your resumes. Great. Thank you, Mari. I see all those in there. Okay. All right. Super. So you have, you're working on the LinkedIn profile, you're working on your resume. And once you have, I'll say to you, once you have your resume dialed in, getting back to our resources, you'll want to upload that onto our job board. We have a job board on there where employers can search. We can, they will search for applicants, and you also have the opportunity to search for roles for our clients who are putting on their jobs. And so again, getting back to what David was saying, you can go ahead and upload, and again, that will put you right into our community where you'll be receiving all of these emails that will come to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, just maybe now is a good time to put, like, you may be thinking, well, who has these return to career reentry programs? So we have a list right now that we can, it's on our website, but we can also drop it in here. Being mindful that these programs have existed, some for, years and years. Some may be dormant, some may be reviving, some are current. So, when you click on them, just you'll see those that are current right now.
Good. So one of the questions in the chat, and then I'm going to open it up to the chat, to the group, if that's okay to ask questions. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Okay. So Karen, actually, you had a question. Would you like to be our first rather than me reading it for you? Karen Oakland, if I can find you. Karen, would you raise your digital hand?
Hi, Linda.
Just trying to find you.
Sorry, I'm not on video today.
That's okay. Just talk.
No, I think that you actually answered my question pretty effectively. I think the challenge that I've seen is that in this job market, most of the roles feel like people are not just looking for experience from a skills standpoint, but also looking for, okay, you've had a certain level of experience in a very narrow way. And that's kind of the input that I've gotten from different people, is just that people are very risk averse, and so they're looking for people who've done exactly the thing in the exact same way for the exact size of company in the exact industry and sub industry. And so that's the challenge that I've been running across. And I think that I'm not even trying to find something in a totally different field, but just kind of a different I work in marketing, so I'm trying to find something in a specific lane of marketing, and just that's kind of the challenge I found.
Yeah. I can absolutely speak to that. So the thing that I wanted to reinforce is when you've got an employer that's looking for a specific role with a specific skill set, we have to remember that, yes, they're looking for candidates, and it has to be a match for them, but it has to be a match for us too, right? They're not all in the driver's seat. We're all mature adults. We've lived a longer time than the early career professionals. We have these skill set, the soft skills that they don't have. We have prior work experience. We are more grounded typically. And so if they're not recognizing that value in us and having the mindset that we just need a short ramp up with some upskilling, perhaps that maybe onto their proprietary systems or such, then that's not going to be the right place for you. So that would be my advice, is to get in the driver's seat a little bit. And I understand what you're saying is like, but that's all I'm finding. So I might encourage you, when you get there and you're like, and this is what I can offer you, because they may not know it yet. Right? This is what I can offer you, and kind of adapt some of the language that you're going to learn from me today, and also from our website about, and a lot of times when I do the training, because when we work with these employers, we train the managers. And so we always say, hey, managers, if you're not bought into this concept, that you can't be a part of the program. You have to opt in. There's no arm twisting. You have to understand. And I always start by asking, do you have anybody in your wheelhouse, in your network that has relaunched? Has your neighbor, has your wife, has your best friend, anything like that? Because as soon as they put on that lens, they're like, oh my gosh, of course. And by the way, we're losing all these mid-career professionals. And so this is a great way to bring back in those who have worked before, those who know how to negotiate, those who know how to work on multi-generational teams. You don't have to teach them those soft skills, which, by the way, you can't really teach those because you only get those through our life, living longer. So I hope that answers your question and gives you a little bit of encouragement.
And then
It does.
we can also make sure that when you're putting things on your resume, the way that you frame it and the way that you frame your interview stories shows how what you've done in the past matches the kinds of things that they need. It doesn't have to be an exact match. In fact, one of the things I've often suggested is that people say, you're right, I don't have that exact experience. And that is a positive, a benefit, because I come to you with all of this other professional experience without the preconceived notions about how it should work here.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing the best of what I know, the best of my experience, and learning from you how it applies here. So it's that win-win for both of us.
Yeah.
Those kinds of interview stories and putting that on resumes and cover letters really works.
Yeah. I wondered if I could just go back to one thing about talking about your break, and then we'll go to more questions.
Yeah.
Because when you're really specific about what you want to do, you're going to come up with your elevator pitch. And I really encourage everybody. I don't know if you've talked about this before on other lunch and learns, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have, because it's just that couple of sentences and I'm sure are you all familiar with, you get in on floor 1 and you're in there with the, the VP of marketing, and you have till floor 5, to, hey, how are you? What are you all about? Right. To say it very succinctly. And so practice it in front of the mirror, practice it in front of non-judgmental friends, right? Practice it to the wall, whatever. Just get really, really comfortable with having it just roll off your tongue. And that will, again, talking about confidence, that absolutely helps you. So I just kind of wanted to mention that.
Absolutely. So there are lots of things about that. So are there other questions out there? Because I'm sure that we've been waiting. You can raise your digital hand if you have a question that you would like to ask Elizabeth. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. I can also talk. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Deb.
Hi, Deb.
How do you combine your career gap with your elevator pitch? I mean, my elevator pitch is, hi, my name is Deb Gates. I do this, this, and this. But how do you combine your career gap with that?
Yeah. Okay. So let me step back to say, so there's 3 components to that elevator pitch. Who are you and what are you looking for? And you want to address, what did you do before your break and what did you do during your break? So I think that question that you're asking really talks about, during my break, I took courses in Python because I really want to get into technology. I have joined this community, and I've been volunteering with XYZ, and I'm super excited about getting into this industry. Okay, so you'll really try to weave in what you've been doing during your break, and the benefit of doing that, Deb, is it really shows that listener that you are going about your relaunch with intention, with commitment. You have thought very long and hard about what you want to do. Oftentimes we have conversations with employers before we set off these programs that, hey, these relaunchers, and we have statistics on this, right? Because we have been leading, I think, 34 return to work conferences, right? And so we have data that 95% are looking for full-time work. These aren't gig workers, right? And they're going about this whole thing with intention and commitment. No one would do that because if they didn't have that, because it takes so much courage, right, to do it. And so I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I see
Alex
has his hand up.
Hi, thanks for doing this, by the way, and I wish I'd had a service like Relaunch a decade ago. I had a 6-year gap when I was a stay-at-home dad from about 2010 to 16. I find if I'm interviewing with somebody of a similar vintage to me, especially if it's a woman, like, oh, good for you, great lad, took care of your kids. Sometimes you get a bewildered look from a 30-something hiring manager, and obviously nobody's ever said anything like you're not taking your career seriously, but you can see the cogs are turning. So how do you fight that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That ageism is something that does exist, right? And those that do not understand what a career gap. I want to give you some sort of hope there, though, because I think what you're speaking about is those programs that don't have career reentry, sort of what I like to call is sort of, if you can think about, and I'll talk about this in a second, sort of mid-career internships. That's what they are, right? And so they're going about this hiring of relaunchers with intention. So when you're faced with those sorts of doubt, maybe is the best way, is to kind of switch it around and say, yes, I had the I was very fortunate that I was able to step back, but during that time, this is what I did because I always knew I was going to go back to work. And this is what I've learned during my break. And I have come back with a whole new perspective on how I can contribute and add value. Because those people who have not taken a career break have just been, lack of a better way, on a treadmill, right? So they haven't been able to step out and gain another perspective. And so getting back to what Linda was saying was that is part of the value of relaunchers, right? We still know what's going on within the industry because we've done all this research, but we have gone and taken a break and experienced other things and can provide that other perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And those are things that we can talk about in terms of how do you phrase that? We can practice some of that. But the idea is you chose to do it deliberately. You were privileged to be able to take that time, Alex, to spend with your kids and help them as they were growing, and to give your wife other opportunities. And now you're coming back, you're excited, you have done all the prep work. Now you can devote your full energy plus everything you did before you took the break and everything you learned during that break. Okay, you're that asset. By the way, there's several different kinds of relaunches. There's a formal relaunch, which is the programs like Elizabeth is talking about, but some of us are relaunching our careers, or we think about it as relaunching if we have been off because we've been laid off, okay? Or we've been off because of burnout, or we've moved to a new location. Whatever the reason, we have that gap that we want to be able to effectively talk about. So you are relaunching your career, even if it wasn't a deliberate break. Although in many of the cases for the programs that you're talking about, Elizabeth, those usually are deliberate breaks.
Yeah, let me step back a bit. So the definition of a career break is quite broad, actually. About 80% are those who have taken a break for childcare, elder care, sabbatical, entrepreneurship, part-time work, military, right, service. The thing that weaves all of those who have taken a break is it's not because of poor work performance. So it can be you got laid off. Hey, COVID absolutely created hundreds of thousands of people who ended up taking, a forced career break. And they're like, I'm only going to be out hopefully for a year. But as we all know, life gets in the way and it can become 2 years and 3 years. So these programs that I've talked about, you're all, anything that I just talked about there, you're eligible, right? Most programs require a 2-year career break. During COVID, like when I was at Oracle, I said, nope, we're going back to 1 year because I don't want to miss out on all of this talent. So we went to 1 year. Anywhere, from 3 to 6 years of work experience. And that's to screen out the early career people. And they can have returnships, which is an intent to hire. 12 weeks, 16 weeks, I like to call it a soft landing. It's full of programming while you're doing this
I
job.
call it an internship for grownups.
Internship for grownups, perfect. And then some employers more and more are like, you know what, we're just going to do a direct hire. I have a number of clients right now that are saying they still have that soft landing, but you're full-time day one. So, and they can start on the same day, everybody. Maybe they hire 5, 6, 7 relaunchers, so you're part of a cohort, or they can do a rolling admission. So there are different models to this. And those are the employers that really get us. Yeah. So
can I ask a follow-up question
please.
On this? It's sort of, Linda said this before, but it's obviously reinforcing becoming somebody like you. Stick to your guns as far as you said, you're interviewing the organization as much as they're interviewing you. And obviously there's a temptation the longer you're out to reduce your criteria and, I suppose give us a pep talk on sticking to what you want. Because there's a very real tendency for when you're in our place unemployed, like I just need a job, but you can make that mistake over and over and over again.
Over and over again. Alex, it's a really great question, and we really do remind relaunchers. I'm going to give you an example. I talked to you about our conference that we have and the one that's coming up in October. So that third day, is the recruiting booth. And we give tips to relaunchers because they get 10 minutes to talk to a recruiter. Do not go in there and say, I'll do anything. Because what does that say to the employer? It says to the employer, wow, you haven't done research on us. You haven't done research on the jobs. It doesn't seem as though you're going about this with real intention and that you've done homework that you know, because it really goes against everything that we've just said, that go about it with deliberation and show them that you have a very strategic, methodical path that you have taken and that you own your break. You're not apologizing for it. You own it and you benefited from it, right? And so you're going to have to put on the Alex sales hat, right? And say, I'm worthy. And if they come back to you, Mari, the podcast that has that couple with the one gentleman that was kind of talked down to by the employer about like, I can't even remember what he said, but basically said, why are you even here? Why don't you just take an entry level job? And the man was so offended. And so he's like, I don't want to go and work for that company, right? If that's going to be their attitude, that is not a place for me. So own your gap, do your research, do your courses, do your volunteering, and go in there and say, this is what you're getting from me. And it'd be a real shame for you. It's a real loss for you. Obviously, you're not going to say that, but that's something that's going on in your head, right? And I do not want to minimize how difficult this is. I don't. I understand, really. And spend some time on some of our podcasts because I'm thinking that's going to help.
Got religion now. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, for sure. You got it.
Bo.
So, Elizabeth, I want to thank you very much for mentioning Toastmasters.
Yeah.
I had 4 different people in the time of my job search who said, Bo, you should go check out Toastmasters. And finally, after the 4th person, I did.
Yeah.
I've now been Toastmasters for years. It's definitely helped me with public speaking and with leadership. I'm now the president of our club. And just one of the things I would tell you all about Toastmasters is that it helps you in storytelling. And storytelling is really important to what we do in job search because you're going to be asked about, tell me about a time when. So another benefit of Toastmasters. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, I love that. I love the storytelling, and I have to make sure that I talk about that more because it really is. It's a great analogy. Thank you.
Looks like David has his hand up.
Yeah, my first question, the iRelaunch Return to Work conference, it's on your screen.
Yeah.
Is that a conference online or is it in person?
Yes, good question. They're virtual. We used to do them in person before COVID, but they're all online now.
Oh, good. So it's easy to get to. I just pay
Oh,
registration and show up.
It's easy. Yeah.
Second one, I don't know if we have time for this, but I was just going to briefly tell my situation. I had a job as with YBP Library Services. It's a library vending company. They sell books to university libraries, all the tech services. And I was there from 1998 to 2006. And because I had an inheritance, I dropped out of the job market for 13 years or so. And during that time, I did some volunteer. I did some freelance writing, took a lot of coursework to sort of explore myself, what I wanted to do with my life kind of thing. And since then, I had a few short-term contract positions, working in a warehouse, working for the U.S. Census, and then working for Cognio, which is a academic assessment company. That was a remote job. I was a scorer. And around 2021, I decided to focus on data analytics for a data analyst job. And I took quite a few courses from there until this year. And I got a basic certification, but I'm having a really tough time getting that first job. I've been applying steadily since February. I've got like 50 applications out. If they don't ghost me, they say, give me a thanks, but no thanks, essentially. And I'm wondering if, given that history, this return to work outfit would be right for me?
I think so. It depends on the job, the jobs, and you'll be able to, once you join the job board, you'll be able to see what is available. I do want to point out to everybody across the board for hiring, you know, during COVID, most roles were remote, which worked really well for relaunchers. And we are seeing a trend, obviously with relaunchers as well, is more towards hybrid. And so sometimes that can make it more difficult, right? Some people really like that because they're back in the mix of things and they're not at home. Other people's are, you know, they still are trying to raise their kids, or they have, you know, their elderly parents. So the point
Also
being,
running out of money, so I need to kind of get things going somehow.
Sure, I understand. So I encourage you to join the conference.
Okay, I will.
Take a look at that. Yeah. Yeah, and good luck with that, David.
Thank you.
So for everybody, when you're trying to get back to work, whether it's, you know, a couple of months, as somebody said, or whether you're talking about something that has been several years, the important part is demonstrating what you can do for the new employer, which means that every time you're putting that resume out there, you're going to highlight the skills that you have that match what it is they're looking for. Okay. And you talk about what you can bring to them. It's important to own the gap. It's important to talk about what you've done. But ultimately, what they want to hear is, why are you talking to me? What can you bring me?
Mhm.
We may have time for one more question or not. If there's one more quick one. Okay. If not, I'm going to remind you all, okay, to join us again. Yes, Lori, you're absolutely right. Showcase your value proposition.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Really important for anyone and everyone.
I might encourage, before we drop, go ahead, follow me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. I will also mention our CEO and co-founder, Carol Fishman Cohen. Maury, I don't know if you can drop in her LinkedIn profile. She started this. She's a relauncher, started this 17 years ago. And so she's written for the Harvard Business Review many times. She has a TED Talk. I encourage you to take a look at that. And she's written a book, one book, or maybe two. So maybe take a look at Carol Fishman Cohen.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth. This has been fantastic. You've answered lots of questions, and more than anything else, I think that you've not only given people resources, you've given them ideas and hope.
Good.
About ways back to work. And I think that's so important. These suggestions work, guys, okay? You can follow her. You can look at all the information on the iRelaunch site. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Ken or Sue. We're all here. We're happy to help in any way that we can, because our goal is the same as Elizabeth's. We want you to get back to work. More importantly, we also want you to find your next forever job and hire your next company. All of that is so important. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Or Sue, if you can stop that one, I'm going to stop this one, I think. Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording there. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that you all remember to copy the chat so that you've got a copy of that. Okay. That you can, that's done. Okay. Remember, join the private group so that we can continue these kinds of conversations, connect with one another. This will be available on YouTube so that you can find it there again if you ever want to see that. But the resources are in the chat, and I'm going to put the chat in the private group. Okay, that does not go out onto YouTube. It only goes into the private group. I will also, we have an AI summary of this session that will also go into the private group. Okay, so that you all get a chance to do it. So lots of valuable resources. Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of this.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Great questions. And I just wish all of you luck in your journey.
Thank you. as a reminder, we are doing Lunch and Learn again next week. And next week is our monthly Ask Me Anything session. So you've got a question about anything job search related, next week is the way we're going to do it. One more Lunch and Learn that I want to remind you about, because we do them every week. But remember the one on September 18th. On September 18th, Mark Anthony Dyson is going to be our guest expert, and he's talking about job scams, how to recognize them, how to avoid them. And I think that's going to be another great program where you're going to get lots of good information, especially September 18th. September 18th. Okay.
All right.
If you've registered for Lunch and Learn once, you have the link. Okay. You don't need to keep registering. You can register on the event page on LinkedIn, just as another way of reminding people that this is something that's important and showing people that that interest is there. But once you have the link, you can join any Lunch and Learn. Okay. So we hope to see you there as well. Reach out and join our private group. If you've got any questions, let me know. If you don't know how to save the chat, if you go up to the top of the screen where it says Job Search Lunch and Learn, there are 3 dots to the right. Click on those 3 dots and it gives you the option to save it. The other way that you can do it is you can slide your cursor up the entire chat, okay, copy it, and then put it into a document of your own. As I mentioned, I will put this into the private group. Sometimes LinkedIn works with me and the links remain active. Sometimes they don't, but you can always copy and paste. Okay. Thank you all very much. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Okay. We really appreciate everything that you've done and all the wonderful information.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks, team.
And Mari, thank you so much for adding all of those wonderful resources. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to leave before I get kicked out of my study room so somebody else can use it.
Thank you, Linda and Elizabeth.
Thank you.
See you all next week. Michelle, do you need another minute to copy the chat? Okay, if not, I'm going to close the room in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,